Hello, so my name is Michael Suter. My business is Daimon Seed Astrology. This is the fourth video I put together in this series on ancient astrology. This is a video that I'm making to try and let people know why they might want to book a consultation with me. Astrologers have all sorts of different styles, different schools of astrology, different schools of thought, how astrologers approach it. There's modern astrologers, there are Hellenistic astrologers, traditional astrologers, Vedic astrologers. There's all sorts of astrology out there. Too many types to name. So I am an astrologer in the Hellenistic and traditional school, and I hope to let you know through this video that I am what I'm doing is pretty unique. I am also a researcher. I am researching a lot of the mythology that I believe underlies astrology, and I think it's, people might think it's obvious that, you've got planets named Jupiter and Mars and Saturn and Venus and such, and well, of course, these are the these are the gods. These are the planetary gods. But most astrologers do not go much further than that in terms of really defining what these archetypes are all about. I mean, some people might argue that everybody does this, but I think what I've done here is pretty unique in terms of that. So my belief is that the archetypes, the archetypal planets, are derived from a original, very pagan, polytheistic understanding of the wheel of the year. The seasons are ruled by these planetary archetypes. Each one of the signs, which corresponds loosely to a month, is a different defined territory, and each one of them is ruled by one of these planetary archetypes. And my belief is that the planetary archetype is the functional character in the story of the year that is functionally moves the story of the year forward. So the archetypes are basically responsible for moving the year forward. This is an important distinction. This is an idea that humanity and our planet and our reality are in fact intertwined and meshed, and that our archetypes are basically a part of reality. Consciousness is primary according to Hermeticism and to idealism, and my astrology is very much informed by those ideas. So our reality is intertwined with our psychology. It's not; these are not separate things. They're not. Our consciousness is not something that happened because of a couple of brain cells bumped together randomly and happened to push out a thought. That's utterly ridiculous. The consciousness, human consciousness, is the basic framework of our reality. So, when I'm doing reading, I'm very highly descriptive of the signs and the rulers and what their energy is in terms of moving the energy forward. So Saturn is, because he rules the winter months in the northern hemisphere, his energy is all in the root. He takes no chances, and he wants to defend the most basic nature of humanity. And then there's each of these archetypes. The sun, the moon are in the fertile side of the year. They rule the creativity, the masculine and feminine forces, like the polarities of an electrical charge that can be accessed by humanity when they have these these forces in balance, and not entirely internally. We're not necessarily looking for some sort of idealized alchemical marriage internally, even though that sounds awfully nice. And I am a Hermeticist, but I think we have to be careful with that, because the world outside of us is providing we are in response to, and the world is in response to us. We're in a constant dialogue with everything that is within us and without us. So while our consciousness is creating the reality outside of us in a very real way. So that informs my astrology. I very much want my clients to take responsibility and take power over their own lives. So my astrology is in some ways very Plutonian. It's very much about power, the dynamics of power, bringing power into a positive light and into a positive ideation in our lives, that we're not running away from power, that we're advocating for ourselves, that we're thinking for ourselves critically, and trying to find the balance of what has been provided for us by our chart and what the world has been presenting to us in terms of our constant barrage of lessons that life brings to us. So yeah, this is it's a very my astrology is very oriented towards establishing personal power, not running away from personal power. And anytime we talk about power, we have to think about masculinity and femininity, and how those are balanced, and how and what the world presents to us, and how we react and proactively move through our lives. Fate is a feminine principle, according to ancient pagan and hermetic ideas. The triple fates were ruled by Venus. It says that quite clearly in the Orphic hymns. So we should think about so-called fate and free will as being sort of somewhat belonging to the polarities of masculinity and femininity. So just a disclaimer around that to those people who might be confused by this. These are feminine masculine principles. These do not necessarily speak to males and females necessarily. We are each very individual. We do not in any way conform perfectly with the archetype of the range of archetypes of the feminine, or the range of archetypes of the masculine. That kind of thinking, stereotyping, that typology that brings us things like gender theory and other rather mistaken and problematic ideologies can actually be disposed with completely, and we can in fact return to a more, what I would say, more pre-Christian idea of what masculinity and femininity are, and how they interplay. And when we look at our lives, we can also look at those ideas when we're really honest and trying to maintain a critical eye on what is masculine and what is feminine, and so that those are some of the major reasons I think that people might want to book with me. I've got a great deal of I've done a great deal of study of Jung, of Freud, of a lot of idealist philosophers. It's my belief that philosophy underlies a lot of astrology. I think you cannot do astrology without having a worldview sitting behind it that is going to inform your astrology, just as anybody who were to be doing, any therapist or anybody doing, divination and consultation has a worldview, and they often don't know what their worldview is, because they probably have been in something of an echo chamber through their indoctrination and education. So there's a rather a lack of circumspection there that I think I can bring to astrology, to consultations. I've, as I said, spent a good time looking at psychologists' work. A lot of great interpretations of these great thinkers, and that's a very major influence upon my work. So yeah, the battle of the sexes is a real thing, and it is the basis of power. When we talk about power dynamics, we cannot talk about that, in my opinion, without also speaking about these two forces, yin and yang, or masculine and feminine. I use these things not quite interchangeably. There's subtle differences why I use certain, one or of those sets of polarities at different times. So that's what I have to say for now. I've got a lot to share in terms of ideas of how astrology should work. I think they're fairly groundbreaking, and just in terms of the fact that I'm obviating these things. I'm talking about paradigms. I'm talking about ways we think about how the world works, worldviews. I think that clients will, in fact, benefit and do benefit from this rather large-scale set of really pulling back from the current idioms and paradigms that we're used to, and trying to understand ancient ones without necessarily moving back directly to them. There's also a great deal we can glean from understanding really deep history, and using this analysis of power dynamics of masculine and feminine principles, and which of those principles have dominated over the course of history, and where we really are in terms of the zeitgeist, the collective, where we are in terms of our appreciation of or desire, let's say, a desire to bring a balance to the masculine and the feminine principles. The pendulum has swung a great deal towards the feminine, the collective, and the popular mind is not appreciative of the masculine principle at this point in history, which will come back to bite us if we're not trying to really gain a level of balance in our society and in our individual lives. As individuals, we can try and come to some understanding of these things, and when we do, our whole everything around us will, I believe, be improved. Also, understanding the archetypes, how they move us through the year, and the year, of course, is a metaphor, a parable for our life. So we talk about extremes. We go through childhood, we go through young adulthood, and adulthood, and middle age, and being an elder, and our fate, goes through times of being abundant, times when things are budding, and then they go into abundance, and the life yields a lot, and and then we invariably go into times when life does not yield a lot, and comes the winter of our the dark winter of our soul, so to speak. Just understanding that is what a lot, one of the big lessons of astrology is that we go through cyclical changes, and that's what I'm trying to bring, is this very ancient wisdom back into this art. All right, my name again is Michael Suter. My business is Daimon Seed Astrology, and hopefully you can check out my work on my website, michaelmsuter.com. I am on Facebook and Instagram, and also adding a Patreon channel.